mic on mute. We start. Mm. So, good morning, all of you. I'm very happy to actually be part of this initiative. Uh, I would actually say that a few weeks back, Professor Dr. Rajnikant contacted me. So, we spoke and he wanted me to be part of this initiative to share a few things with the academic community and student community. Uh, So we were actually discussing wide range of topics. So something related with business continuity and changing landscape of education, what you're seeing now on the screen. We also talk about whether we have to discuss about something about skills related matters, uh, whether it is going to be something related with the researchers, how the researchers have been affected by COVID-19 situation. So there are a wide range of things which we were actually been addressing. Then in the end, we thought that at this point of time, with COVID-19 situation getting really, the number of cases is getting on new high every day in India. So it's better to actually look at something which is going to be of immediate necessity for the academic and student community. So that's the reason we are actually having this particular topic as of today. Business continuity plan and changing landscape. So the entire agenda for next 35, 40 minutes is going to be this. I will do a little bit of introduction about what is the actual situation we are in with some data, where it started, how it started, and what is the current situation. It's about the pandemic coronavirus disease, COVID-19. Then we will move to the main aspect, which is about the business continuity plan. So how, if a business gets disturbed at this particular level because of natural calamity or some other reasons, so how the business have to actually continue things. It is not that something happens automatically, we close the business and run away. So whatever for decades or years together, whatever an entrepreneur or somebody have actually built the organization, that should not be disturbed because of this one-off situation. So what is the necessary things that an individual organization or business have to do? So we will elaborate more about the business continuity plan. So who all will be involved? So we will also talk about the contractory code, which Singapore is very famous for. So Singapore's contractory code is considered, or contract tracing is considered as the gold standard by even Harvard University. So it's one of the top one in the world. We will also talk about, so now you know that part of the business continuity plan is most of the organizations are now embracing telecommuting. So online work or remote learning, work from home. With all these things, do organizations have a policy for work from home? So that is what we will actually look at it. We will also little bit look at what business needs to do immediately. There are some things which they have to do it. We will move towards the engagement strategies of the student engagement strategies for academic community and for business community, how they have to engage their employees. We will move towards the last part, which is about the higher education, how it is been coping up post COVID-19, and something for my academic community on the online teaching tips. So this is going to be the agenda for this session. So I would start with the introduction where all this particular problem or this particular situation has started. So we keep on saying that it is a coronavirus. So remember, this coronavirus is not just this only virus. There are quite few from this coronavirus family. So the one which was actually uh, started off on 2019. So that was actually named as COVID-19. So the virus name is actually COVID-19. So there are other coronavirus of the same family has different other virus, which includes SARS, MERS, all those things. So this virus originated from Wuhan. Wuhan is actually a city in, in China. So that is the city I have very first visited to China. I have visited the length and breadth of the country. So visited all big cities of China. Wuhan is one of the bigger cities of China, but definitely not tier one. It is technically tier two, tier three city of China. But still, the infrastructure, everything, the way the city has developed is far better than many of the metro cities of India. So, but this is now in the wrong reasons. So the COVID-19 or the novel coronavirus has started off from Wuhan and it has spread across the world. So this situation is actually called as pandemic. So what is pandemic? I believe all of you know about these things. It is just to set the levels to make sure all of you are aware of the language, what we are actually going to discuss. This pandemic is an epidemic of disease that has spread across large region. So it is not one part of the world. It has actually spread across all the continents. Maybe it is not there in Antarctica. Apart from Antarctica, all the other continents, the entire world is being affected by this particular disease. Okay, so this was first reported to WHO uh, on 31st December by China, and subsequently on 30th January 2020, WHO has declared this as public health emergency of international concern. On Feb 2020, the name COVID-19 was actually given. So the coronavirus is actually a virus family. So similar uh, virus, I would actually say, is severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS. And similar, SARS is mainly in China, was in China and Southeast Asia. Singapore was able to do much better when it comes to COVID-19, handling COVID-19 situation, because we had similar experiences with SARS. Okay, so it's more than a decade before SARS, bird flu, these type of issues we had actually. And the latest one, just a year before or so, we had a couple of years before we had MERS, Middle East respiratory syndrome, where the disease was mainly in the Middle East countries and Northern Africa. So that's a bit of introduction about corona virus disease, COVID-19. I will just give a situation report. What is it at the moment? Okay, so this data is already 48 years, 48 hours over. Yesterday morning, I have taken this from WHO. So that means it should have been reported to WHO as of 2 days back. So I can say that now the number of confirmed cases has exceeded 14.3 million people. And you can say globally, more than 6 lakh people have been dead. So 603, 691 over 2 days back. So you can see that this is getting worse and worse, and it is really alarming. I would actually tell you that when you're seeing the situation report, don't simply see the statistics, because statistics sometimes can fool us. Okay, so look at very careful. So the researchers and students who have actually done their business research or any research methodology will agree with me. Even statisticians will agree. So so I will say in this situation report, look at uh, the column called transmission classification. So the transmission classification, WHO has said that it can be of three categories. One is called sporadic cases. Sporadic cases is just here and there, little bit here and there. It's not really alarming. This next one is cluster of cases. Cluster of cases means in certain clusters, in certain areas only, the problem is big. And the third one is actually community transmission. That is the very serious one. That is actually transmitting within the community. Why all the countries are locking down, so lockdown situation, asking you people to actually stay inside, not mingle with the community, is to ensure that we don't hit into the community transmission situation. Okay, so I'm not going to present all the data, so it's all available on WHO site. You can actually have a look at it, and of course, data related to India has been presented by many of the newspapers and social media, apart from the government agencies. Let's actually take the case of this slide. You can actually see what is happening in India. It is already more than 1.1 million cases, and you can actually look at India is still in the cluster of cases. Okay, you look at Bangladesh and Indonesia is in the community transmission. So that is a serious one. You look at Bhutan is actually sporadic cases. So Bhutan is actually not very serious because it is happening here and there. India, even though the numbers are very big, we are number 3 in the world now when it comes to number of confirmed cases. But remember, WHO still classifies us as cluster of cases. We are not into the category of community transmission. Imagine that India moves into community transmission. You will see whatever numbers you're seeing now gets multiplied. So I would say that please exercise caution, read the numbers, understand how is or what is the magnitude of the problem. So that's the basic introduction about COVID-19 coronavirus situation. So we have seen what is the meaning, where it started, and what are all the similar disease which the world has witnessed earlier. We have also looked at few of the data to understand the different types of transmission. So the 3 different types of transmission. So let's move to the business side. So with this present situation, all businesses have to take care of themselves. If not, whatever hard work they have actually put in for last few years or few decades, all is going to become null and void. So this business continuity planning is very important. So what is the definition of business continuity planning? So the business continuity planning is the process involved in creating a system of prevention and recovery from potential threats to a company. So it is nothing but a system which all the companies or all organizations, whether you're a university or a business entity, you should have a business continuity plan. When something happens of this scale, so how are you going to react? How are you going to recover? So the threats is not about a pandemic like COVID-19. It can also be something beyond that. For example, if there is an earthquake, what are you going to do? If it is going to be tsunami, if it is going to be a war, so what are you going to do to recover? So the whatever things which is not under your control should not actually hit you. Even if it hits you, you should be able to recover. That is what is business continuity planning is. Singapore, we have been doing this for, I would say, for years actually. So at least I'm aware of this for last 10, 12 years because that's part of our processes itself. So something happens to business, how are we going to react? Okay, so if you actually look at what a typical business continuity plan might actually have, I would say that different people would actually give different steps. Some might say 6, some might say 7, some might say 5. But I would actually say that irrespective of whatever is the steps, the following 4 items have to be taken very carefully. Okay, so first one is you have to do a business impact analysis. So when there is a issue like this, when there is a problem like this, so you have to look at the, the business functions which are going to be affected heavily. You have to identify the business functions that is going to be affected heavily. So it can be, for example, your customer management, or it can be your sales, or it can be your marketing. So it can be any of these business functions. So you have to understand which function is going to be hit very hard, and you have to study about the resources required to do the recovery, or which are the resources is going to be time sensitive. So this is the first step. You have to understand more about yourself, which one is very important one, and then what are the resources related to it, and where the time sensitive factor comes in. So that is the first step. Once you have done this particular impact analysis, you have to look at how are you going to recover. So what is the different steps to do the recovery of this critical functions? So that's going to be the second one. So once you have identified the recovery thing, you have to also understand that this entire exercise have to be done by somebody called a business continuity team. So this team is the one who will actually devise the business continuity plan to manage this type of disruption. So there are different ways of looking at it. So business continuity team doesn't need to be always being headed by the CEO, or in case of a university or a college, it doesn't need to be the principal. So it can be a business continuity team. A special team would actually take care of this particular one. So this team may be uh, have to be led by a business continuity manager. So we'll talk about that later. So, and remember, this entire team, business continuity team, have to be trained and have to be tested. So because this team should know what they are supposed to do when there is a disruptive period. So when there is a disruption, they need to understand, oh, I have to plan in this way, and these are my strategies, and I have to execute the strategies. So these are the various steps that have to be part of the business continuity plan. Okay, so business impact analysis. Then you talk about recovery. What are all the various steps to recover? Then you talk about the team which is going to be involved. And the last one is the team have to be trained, should know their responsibilities very well. So as I was telling you, the business continuity team have to be headed by someone called business continuity manager. Sometimes is also called as business contingency manager. Why contingency? Contingency is nothing but a situation. So he or she is going to manage this particular disruptive period. So this business continuity managers may also be assisted by assistant business continuity managers, because if the operations are very big, obviously there needs to be more support for the business continuity manager. For example, you have you have around 1,000 packs to manage, or 1,000 students to manage. One is enough. If you have to manage 10,000 students to manage, or 10,000 employees to manage, then automatically you may have couple of business continuity managers to look at it. So I have told about the business continuity team. I have told about business continuity managers. We have to look at what are their roles and responsibilities. So what this team and this business continuity manager does is actually they will actively monitor the development of virus outbreak. So they will actually look at what is happening around. They will monitor, and once they monitor, what they do is they have to disseminate these information messages to the management and to the employees with very clear instructions what measures needs to be activated. So when there is a spike in the numbers, then automatically what the management have to do, what each and every single employees have to do. So this is what the business continuity managers have to actually do. Remember, the next very important role and responsibility of them is to educate the employees. Remember, the employees may not know everything. So employees may not know about the control measures or preventive procedures that needs to be put in. So the business continuity managers and his team will actually advise, educate the employees, sometime even uh, I would say make it as a law or a rule that all have to actually follow. So the control measures and preventive procedures are laid down and being informed to the employees by business continuity manager. And it's not only about one-way communication. They are the one fully in charge. So I would say that they will be the designated one point contact for the entire organization. So this includes not only the employees, it might be also for the stakeholders. So the stakeholders, for example, the government might actually ask information about the employees, ask information about what measures we have taken. All these are actually done by this particular team only. So the responsibility of this particular team is very, very huge. So that's the reason usually the senior management comes up with an individual team which actually manages it. It's not that always the CEO or the head of the department or somebody who is actually in the senior management team is part of it. So, of course, senior management team is part of the discussions and giving the clearances for whatever the business continuity team proposes. Okay, so these are the roles and responsibility that business continuity managers and team have to follow. One of the very important aspect of business continuity plan is about contact tracing. So there has been a wide range of contact tracing programs now online available. But I would tell you that what Singapore government has actually devised has been one of the very famous one, and Singapore government was able to manage things in a much far better than most of others. I would actually say that if you look at uh, sometime very early, sometime in Feb or later part of January, you would have actually seen that the numbers of Singapore was growing up. Even now, Singapore actually gets the numbers which is actually very high. But I can tell you that all the numbers, whatever you see, is the majority is from a place called Dormitory, where nearly 3.5 lakhs of foreign workers are staying. So these are dormitory is a place where the hostel is there, where these people are housed. So the numbers is actually only from there. The community wise, I would say the numbers is very, very low now. So when I say very, very low now, it is hardly around in the entire country. We actually say 5 people, 7 people, 6 people, four. These are the contact, I would say, the community transmission or community numbers at this point of time. The rest of them, whatever you see, is in that particular dormitory. So Singapore has effectively made sure that this particular situation is handled very well. And I can tell you that all my students are now coming for face-to-face lessons. So from last month onwards, we have actually arranged that. In fact, a couple of weeks before, I think a week before last Saturday, actually. So we had the cinema theaters all been open, the malls and every other thing has been open for really a month. So I can say that one of the very important reason for that is our contact tracing is very, very solid. So let me just give a glimpse of how the contact tracing can be done in an organization, which has been done in the school which I am working, Amity, and most other schools and organizations follow a similar method. So first, what we have to do is we have to develop a contact tree code. So contact tree code, when you actually do it, the tree have to have branches. So meaning here is you should actually have a split team arrangement. So why you should have a split team arrangement is you should minimize the risk of spreading. Remember, for example, in your company, you have 100 people working. Imagine all 100 people are coming to office. So what happens is if there is a virus spread and if all 100 are being affected or some are affected and remaining people are quarantined or stay home notice happens, in that particular situation, the business is going to get hit. Remember, the customers will not wait for you. They will actually move around. Even for schools, I would say that there needs to be students who have to be taken care. There needs to be assessment. There needs to be exam, which all needs to be attended. So important part here is you have to have a split team arrangement where the risk is being spread. You may actually split the entire team into A, B, or C. For example, it can be team A or team B if the school size is or the company size is actually less than 50 or less than 100. If it is beyond that, you may actually choose to have as A, B, C. And what you do is actually, so you split the team and ask them to work from home and work from office in a different way. For example, in my company, so in my school, so what we have done is we have team A and team B. So when you actually allot the members for team A and team B, you make sure that there is a policy of succession planning taken care. What is the meaning is actually the top management one person will be in team A and another person will be in team B. So these people are equivalent. For example, uh, I actually head one of the team and my CEO heads the other team. So meaning is actually something happens to one of us, the other people are there to actually take care. Similarly, my head of the department of academics, for example, he will be in team A and his deputy head will be in team B. So meaning is we are actually trying to make sure that I don't risk losing both of them at the same time. So that's how you have to actually split it. So when you actually want to build the contact tree code for the entire organization, you can actually choose something like MNOPQ like that. So M may be top management, N may be the departments, O may be the managerial level people, P may be executive, and Q may be non-executive. So like that, you can have the tree being built up. Remember, always try to make sure that the team A and team B, these teams don't meet each other. For example, I haven't met, so we have only two teams. I haven't met any of my other team members for last 5 months. I have last met them on March. So after that, I haven't seen them at all. Of course, we are connected daily by meetings like MS Team meeting, Zoom, or even by telephone call and WhatsApp, so whatnot. So there are different ways of getting connected. But we haven't met physically face to face. So this is how the contact tree code works. Okay, so it's not only the contact tree. So that is actually going to help you on the contact tracing, but the organizations have to ensure that they have to create a safe work environment. So it can be a school or it can be even a business. So you have to ensure that there is a safe work environment. So what we do here is actually we make sure that all the staff and students do a daily travel and health declaration. So we use online tools like Google Forms where they have to report daily. So this includes even if you're working from home, even if the students are studying from home. I told you now we have students coming face to face learning. So they do come face to face learning. Some of them are still worried, or some of them are caught in their home country. So they actually connect to us by remote learning. So irrespective of whether you're in school or whether you're in home, you have to every day submit your daily health declaration form. And my student affairs team will actually monitor this on daily basis. And this includes the temperature, whether they are any of their family members are being caught with this COVID-19 situation. So whether any of their roommates or housemates have this particular problem. So how is their temperature? They have to declare their temperature. And the moment their temperature is 37.5, greater than 37.5, automatically our contingency team, the student affairs team, actually gets in touch with the student and make sure that student well-being is taken care. This includes also for the staff. So daily reporting is must, and that is being monitored by the student affairs department. So by this way, we try to create a safe environment. We try to understand what is happening. And anybody entering the organization, anybody entering the office have to actually, or school, have to do this reporting. Apart from this, Singapore government has introduced something called safe entry. Though this is for the government. The safe entry is anybody entering. There is a QR code they have to actually check in. It is typically like what you do with Facebook check-in. It is a similar app which Singapore government has actually tracked. So wherever we go, we take a bus, we take a train, we take a taxi, you enter into a mall, you enter into a theater, you enter into a school, any organization, even you enter into a saloon, you have to actually do a check-in and check-out. So that is the safe entry check-in and check-out. After that, only they will actually enter. So if they are entering your school, uh, all this travel declaration, health declaration have to be done. Once you are okay, temperature taking is done, then only they are coming inside. Remember, the staff working or student working may in between have some problem. For example, this is going to be if a student is going to be in the school for more than 4 hours, if a staff is going to be in the school for more than 4 hours, they have to take they have to declare the health twice. Meaning is they have to take the temperature twice. In case there is a issue, so if you see if there is a suspect COVID-19 case or the temperature is actually shoot up, immediately that person have to be moved to the isolation room. And fixing the isolation room is very important. So the campus, your school may be very big, your organization may be very big, but remember this isolation room have to be very near to the place where ambulance can come and pick. It should not be in the middle of the entire company or entire school, where you allow this particular person to actually move from one place to another. So you have to even designate the isolation room and also the route to the ambulance. And that particular route, the travel route, have to be sealed, okay, from the isolation room to the ambulance. So these are a few things to make sure that the safe work environment is being done. So I have told about this, the temperature screening. So anybody coming in and coming out have to actually do the check-in, check-out, plus also temperature screening. I've told that irrespective of whether you're in office or you're working from home, you have to do it. Even if you're working from home, you have to do report to through online forms to HR by health and temperature declaration. So, for example, in India, you might actually say that have a similar thing. I know that the lockdown happens not at the national level, it also happens at the state level and also the district level. So, if it happens, you might actually consider them declaring that I have not been moving from district 1 to district 2. So, they have to declare. So, all these documents are legally valuable. So, in case if there is a false declaration, what happens is they can be legally charged. So this is something to ensure that we all work in safe environment. We don't act irresponsibility so that the other people are going to be affected. Also very important, anybody entering into the premises have to do a visitor registration. That is a good practice, even irrespective of whether it is COVID-19 situation or not. Anybody entering the school or organization have to do a registration. So again, here it helps in the contact tracing. So who has come in, who has left at what point of time. So most importantly, the team, everybody should actually be having a personal protection equipment. So we do teach. So when we are actually teaching face to face, we have a face shield. All of us, all teachers have a face shield when we are actually interacting with the students. So anybody entering into the premises have to wear the mask. So Singapore, we have made it mandatory that everybody in the community. So outside your bus, you're inside the bus or you're walking outside, you should always have the mask being put up. Okay, so that is, I would say, some steps of how to create the safe work environment. Okay, so the business continuity plan in normal stages, you guys should have actually done earlier, and then you should have gone for a dry run when the situation is becoming little bit awkward. Okay, so when it is on, I would say when it is on orange stage, before getting into red, these things should have actually been done. But I would say that most organizations may not be having this business continuity plan formally. So they may not have it. But I would tell you that this is time for you guys to actually have a business continuity plan. Remember, now the situation in India is red. Across the world, most countries is red. So when things get better, then you may actually go for orange, and from orange, you may get back to green. You get back to the normal. But understand that there is no guarantee that you will not hit into second wave. So when second wave happens, your business continuity plan should be in a perfect one. I would actually say second wave is happening everywhere. In Singapore, I would say that we have now opened up around 12 countries. People, visitors can actually come into the country. But I would actually say there are some restrictions which is happening with certain countries now. For example, Hong Kong was doing very well. Japan was doing very well. Australia as a country was doing very well. But recently, what has happened is the Victoria State in Australia and Hong Kong and Japan, we have seen the spikes. The second wave, third wave is actually coming now. So I would say that don't be surprised that even if you get into control, there might be second wave and third wave coming up. So in this scenario, I would say business continuity plan is need of the hour. So already you are in red, come up with a plan, start implementing it. So when you go back green, still when it is moving towards, if it is there is a second wave, you are still safe. Okay. So one of the part of the business continuity plan, which is normally not covered, but I would like to cover here because my interaction with few of the community, academic community and industry community is apart from MNCs. MNCs have policy for work from home, policy for remote working or telecommuting. However, most schools or most companies, the small medium enterprises or small scale industries, or even the universities and colleges, they have never thought about policy for work from home. So I would say that the universities and colleges and businesses should now come up with a policy from work from home. So I would actually give certain headings which you have to cover. One would be availability. So what is availability is, remember, when it is work from home, it is actually work from home. It is not that your staff or your students are actually relaxing, they're enjoying their holiday. It's not like that. They have to actually really work from home, and they have to be available for calls, available for meetings during the office work hours, and they have to respond very well. So when I say respond very well, when there is a call, they have to immediately pick up. So if they're unable to pick the call, then for example they're in the washroom or they're whatever it is, they have to uh, 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 give a call back within next 10 minutes, 20 minutes. So we have to fix the policy. For example, if you're a teacher, you're working from home, you're actually teaching your students, then there should be something which you have to define. So maybe within 3 hours, you have to give a call back, or before end of the day, you have to respond to your email. So this responsiveness have to be defined as part of the policy. And most very important one is about the productivity measurement. Always, the managers and the institutions worry about the productivity part. Is my student really working or not? So he switch on the computer and he just runs away. You don't really know. The productivity measurements is not only for the students, also for the employees. The managers always think that, oh, I always have to watch my staff. I have to do micromanaging. I have to look at what they're doing. Then only they will work. That might be an attitude with most of the or some of the managers. In this particular situation, you have to come up with your plan to actually do a productivity measurement. How are they going to do it? So I give an example what we have actually done. So we want to, our core, we are a school, so our core is to manage our teachers. How to manage our teachers? A teacher, for example, if there is a 3 hour lesson, we ensure that the teacher teaches for 3 hours. The how it is being ensured is this particular video is being monitored by one person who actually has a checklist, looks at first 10 minutes, second 20th minute, 30th minute, 40th minute, 70th minute, 130th minute, 180th minute. So he will actually look at 10 different intervals and see whether the teaching happens or not. It is not that the teacher does something. Okay, so we ensure the productivity measurement. So similarly, you should have for the other staff members. So it is not only that you keep monitoring what they're doing, you have to also do proper support to them. So you should actually give the technology support. They may not be aware of how to do a Zoom teaching, how to do a Microsoft Team meeting. So how to use the learning management system. So there should be proper tech support given not only to the teachers, but also to the students, and make sure that they have enough equipment there. So you can't actually take it for granted that everybody has a laptop at home, everybody has a broadband at home. So all those things need to be addressed. Maybe the schools can actually loan the laptops to the students, or whatever way to support. So have to be done. So these are some policies which have to be there. And the last but very crucial one is about the security and confidentiality of the data. Across the world, we talk about Personal Data Protection Act. In Singapore, the Data Protection Act is very, very strong. In UK and European Union and US, the Data Protection Act is very, very strong. So in case you are using a public Wi-Fi to actually send confidential data, then it is dangerous. So always, there are a lot of cyber threats and data thefts actually happening. So you have to ensure that it have to be sent in a proper, secured way. Okay. So other than that, always the business continuity plan will tell about the personal health and hygiene. Each of the student and staff have to actually do it. I would say that the we have to look at the business resilience advisory program. You have to draft something to make sure that the staff are actually following the policy for work from home. The students are following home-based learning, so the policy for home-based learning. So these things have to be addressed as part of business continuity plan. So that's about the business continuity plan, the second agenda item. The third one, I would say a minor one, I would say is about what business needs to do immediately. Okay, so irrespective of whether you're a school or a business or whatever it is, you have to look at this first of these four items. First is you have to look at the legal considerations. What is now happening with the legal situations? One would be about you might enter contract with your student, with your staff, with the third party vendors, all those people. You have to look at your risk and legal implications. Start thinking about the e-signature. So how to digitalize documents and how to do e-signatures. Most of the time, before COVID-19 situation, you might have done everything face to face. You might be have done on hard copies. Now you have to deal things with digital. So in this situation, what are you going to do? So that is what the business have to do as the first step. Second would be a very important one: leaders. The leaders have to be, I would say the leaders have actually are now facing a very, very difficult time. They haven't faced this particular situation in their entire lifetime. Meaning is actually there are a lot of uncertainties. The employees, everybody is really quite having mixed feelings or feelings of anxiety. What is going to happen? So we are not having customers. Cash flow is a very big issue. So money is not coming in. So in this situation, you don't really know whether you will have your customer coming back. You don't really know the students are going to join again. So how am I going to collect the fees? Because everywhere is shut down. So in this situation, teachers are worried whether they have a job or not. So the staff are worried whether they have a job or not. So every community is actually afraid of what is happening. At this scale, what has happened is it is not only about the disease, it is also about the economy. Last 3 months, 4 months, the productivity is very, very bad. So the economic activity, income generation is almost nil. So in this situation, what is going to happen? As a leader, to lead people at this point of time is very, very difficult. You have to make sure that you have the support of your employees. At the same time, you yourself don't know what is going to happen. So this part is also need to be taken care very carefully. And the third one is about restructuring or redesigning your business process for digital transformation. You may be a traditional brick and mortar organization, never thought about digitalizing, okay, because you may have a cheap labor, you may have more of a labor intensive business model, but all of a sudden you cannot meet each other. You are forced to move online. You have been pushed to move towards digital transformation. So in this situation, you have to change your processes. What are you going to do then? And the last one I would say is, of course, the list keeps on going. I'm just giving you four major parts that you have to immediately look at. The human capital management. How are you going to actually manage the employees when they are going to work remotely? So, what is going to happen to their insurance? What is going to happen to their uh, other policies of appraisal and other matters, motivation, and many, many things? So, these are the important items that a business needs to do immediately. So we have covered three things. We started off with introduction, COVID-19, coronavirus situation, and we moved on with a little bit of what you need to know, few datas about W Health organization, all those things. Then we looked at business continuity plans. Then we moved towards more about the policy for work from home uh, remote working. Then we have covered the business needs, what business needs to do immediately. So let me just run through how you have to keep your employees and students engaged. So important thing here is communication. You have to ensure that communication is kept very, very carefully. I would say that four C's are very important: communication, caution, care, and compassion. You should have a compassion. You have to understand that your students, your staff, everybody in the team is little bit having problems. You have to be more empathetic, understanding what is happening, and try to see. So you have to take care of them, what is happening. So you have to exercise caution. Don't actually jump into conclusions. Okay. So in case, for example, if your student is not attending the class, you have to understand what is the reason. For example, in a family of four or five or six, they may have only one computer. They may have only one laptop. So what happens to them? Okay, so the father have to work, mother have to work, the younger one have to actually attend live classes. Also, you are asking the student to do for live classes. Try to have a little bit of open communication. Try to understand the situation and start working on that. Okay, so keep your communication channels open. Okay, uh, I would say that make sure you always talk to the students or employees every time. Make sure you have regular activities. Okay, for example, if you are going to have a class, always make sure that you have a class at the set time. Okay, so for example, if it's going to be 9 to 12, 9 to 12, 9 to 4, 9 to 4, 3 to 7, 3 to 7. Understand what is it, and then always make it as a regular fixture. Then no problem. Okay, so when you're actually engaging your students and employees, remember that they also have to have a work-life balance. Don't keep on talking to your employees, engaging them off the work. Okay, so and they themselves will actually have these type of problems. They will keep on doing the work. So most of the people initially thought that work from home, study from home is easy, but work from home is very, very difficult because you don't really know when to switch on and switch off. That becomes an issue. So I would say management can have policies like there will be a no meeting block. So for example, all Wednesdays I don't have any meetings. Meaning is all Wednesdays. What happens is the lecturers and my other team members would actually work on few other matters like addressing the student queries, writing to the student, preparing their report, something like that. So we will not have any meetings. So something like that you have to be understanding when it comes to the employee and student engagement strategies. So now we move to the last part of the discussion, which is about higher education situation post COVID-19. I can tell you that it will definitely change. There has been a surge in the online education. So the you will see that things are different. Last time people agreeing or accepting the online education was very, very low. So research says even less than 15% of them are not very happy with online because the quality is uneven and hard. And now what has happened is post COVID-19 situation, the acceptance of online lessons, online classes, online courses have actually jumped up. So in fact, the research actually says this is a blessing in disguise for online education. I would say that whatever online education was able to achieve or got the acceptability of wider mass in last 4 months, it should have at least taken 20 years for them to get to this particular stage. So in this scenario, what happens is that there is going to be a movement towards blended learning even after the COVID-19 situation is done. What happens is almost all organizations will start looking at moving towards 30% of their lessons, 50% of their lessons to be online. So if that happens, what happens to the overall picture is the organizations or the educational institutions will be able to serve more students. I give an example. If your school is able to, as a capacity of 10,000 students, they can maximum recruit only 10,000 students. But moving 30% of the classes online, what happens is they can now recruit 13,000 students. So they can try to actually, with the same infrastructure, they'll be able to cater to more students. By that way, there is a possibility that the cost of education can actually come down. So I can actually tell you that Singapore government has initiated this concept of blended learning long back. I can say even 6, 7 years back itself, I have seen the blended learning where if we want government funding, then 30% of our classes have to be blended. The definition of blended here is either it can be online learning or work-based learning. Meaning is students don't go to the class, but they learn from where they are working or they learn online. So in that particular scenario, I would say all the universities and colleges now have to look at their training. You have to make sure that pedagogical training is being done regularly. If you don't do the, it's no longer whatever they have. They have you have an experienced teacher have actually uh, been wonderful, highly popular, always take good student ratings and good marks. That is all okay. But however, teaching online is slightly different. So you have to ensure that there is a pedagogical training done. And most importantly, you have to understand that the digital economy is here to stay. So digitalization is going to be the one, or I would say digitalization is going to be the new normal. I will say I read 2 3 days back an article from India One. Okay, so for the very first time in the history of Indian economy, 30% of the transactions in a bank has been through online. Okay, and it has overtook the cash transaction. Always the cash transactions used to be higher in Indian banks or Indian economy, but now the digital economy accepting making things online has actually gone up. So this is going to be here. So all higher education have to work towards that. So I can give another example. So for example, there is you talk about banks. Banks are now moving to a concept called digibanks. In Singapore, this has happened few years already. There is a bank called DBS Bank in Singapore. This bank has got the banking license in India a couple of years back, and within 1 2 years, they were able to get nearly 2.5 million customers. And this bank is not physical bank; it is all online only. The number of people managing the bank is just few hundreds. You can see that this is going to be happening everywhere. So the digital economy is here to stay. So you have to higher education have to think about the skills, and you guys have to look at what you're supposed to do in this particular situation. So in fact, Singapore government wants to be the first smart country of the world. So we are a smart nation of the world. So our smart nation initiatives we have started pushing heavily during this particular period. We have improved the digital skills of almost everybody in the country during this particular period. So it was very good earlier itself, but still we are trying to take it to the next level to make sure that we are ready for 5G. Okay, so I told about this to you. So the research actually shows that 15% acceptance was before COVID, and post COVID, now things are far better. Okay, so one other thing, it's not that everything is actually gloomy for the education sector in India. Remember, things are changing now. The students who want to move overseas earlier, all the students are now planning to study back in their respective countries. So 40% of the students, international students, are now considering or changing their study abroad plan. So meaning is all the students are going to study in the uh, the uh, the schools or colleges or universities in the home country. So remember this 40% number is the survey was done sometime in April, March, April. So now this 40% should have definitely kicked into 70 or 80% because of the travel restrictions across the world. Okay, so the last part I would talk about this is for my teachers. Okay, I would say that few online teaching tips. One important thing, if you want to do well, make sure that you plan your online learning activities very carefully. So it is not only about your instructional design, also look at your assessment strategy. So how the assessment is going to be done. Look at the online resources. Encourage students to actually look at the online resources. Make sure you have strategies related to engaging and motivating the students and how you are evaluating their learning. Wherever possible, try to make the lessons interactive. Okay, this is a webinar, so the interaction level is very, very less. We have 40 minutes, we are working towards that time frame. But when it is a normal class, make sure that you do interactive, try to engage your students. There are different tools to do that, so I believe most of you are aware, but I would say you can use peerdeck.com. So that actually converts the Google Slides into interactive presentations, which is possible. YouTube actually has EduPuzzle, where you can actually insert questions in between your video itself. Similarly, you can also have for higher education side, master students, you can actually have something like Wiki. You can create your own Wiki for the class. You can use wiklet.com. So these are some tips I would actually give to all the teachers. So how to engage your students? I would say that these are 10 tips or 10 ideas. Always make sure your student participates your class. Keep on calling the student or texting the students. Be in touch with them regularly. You can have a group WhatsApp or class WhatsApp and then just keep feeding in information, communicating with them. Make sure that you have regular logins. Okay, so don't actually think that you teach the student listen. Come up with something where the student have to log in. Okay, there can be a learning management system, Moodle or Edumodo or whatever is the learning management system. They have to log in every time. So they have to actually, you ask questions, they have to post answers. So try to engage them. So look at the report data and start acting. So if the student is not logging in for 2 days, then you have to ask him what is it happening. So also when you actually have your assignments drafted for online, don't lift whatever is in the offline one to the online. So try to make it a little bit meaningful. Set your expectations. Tell them that what you want. Definitely the students will follow. Okay. So also make sure the online learning readiness. So every time ask questions whether they can hear you, whether they can understand you, whether there is any problem. All those things we have to do. Do a little bit of time management training for the students. Uh, Also, make sure that you have assignment variety, ownership. Always, it is not that you record and put it, so have a live element. So, personalize your communication, then the student should be comfortable with you. The engagement level will be far better. So, that's the end of the discussion. So, I would summarize what we have actually seen for last 40 minutes plus is uh, we have did a bit of an introduction about the pandemic, coronavirus, COVID-19 disease. I was telling you about this is not the first coronavirus. There are other virus, similar virus like SARS and MERS, and I gave you a little bit of data what WHO actually is suggesting for different type of whether it is a sporadic or cluster or even community transmission. Then we moved on with business continuity plan. So I told you that it's very important. If something happens of this disruptive nature, the business have to still continue. So who actually manages that? I have given you the 4 steps, and who manages that is a business continuity team headed by a business continuity manager. So we did went through about the roles and responsibilities of the team and manager, and I spoke about contact code. So how to do contact tracing also. So I gave few tips about creating a safe work environment. So temperature declaration, calling students, safe entry, all those things, isolation rooms, or route for isolation rooms. So we studied all those things. We also uh, spoke about the policy for work from home, which most of the companies or organizations may not have it. So we will. That is one thing I would need you to actually have a look at it. And we moved towards the engagement strategies. And lastly, we closed up with higher education post-COVID, how the situation is going to be. And lastly, it is about the online teaching tips. So thank you very much. Stay safe, be healthy. I'll be happy to take your questions, please.